Everyone's talking politics these days. You can't get away from it. So chances are it's spilling into your home as well. And that's okay. That's fine. That's fun until you start disagreeing. How do you handle a debate? How do you turn debate into dialogue? That's what we're going to explore in this episode of the WifeSavers Podcast, because we don't want political issues to turn into marriage issues. Enjoy.
Bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you into sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Welcome to the WifeSavers Podcast, where multi-award-winning author and global marriage educator Ramona Zabriskie provides answers to your real wife questions. Our goal is to help you appreciate your womanhood, prioritize your personal development, and craft a powerful partnership with the man in your life. Hi, I'm Hannah Allen, and I'm proud to introduce my parents, Ramona and Dale Zabriskie. And yes, this is how they talk all the time. Let's listen.
Taking the good with the ups and downs.
Hi, this is Dale Zabriskie, contemplating the fact that I'm about to vote in my 7th or 8th presidential election.
Wow.
I can't remember.
I never thought of it that way.
It's 7 or 8. I've lost track, obviously. But it just, isn't that something?
Well, yeah,
tells you
I
how
guess
old
that
I am.
is,
You can
yeah,
extrapolate
it's an
that.
accomplishment. Now, but the real question is, how many times did you vote for a winner?
Yeah, that's right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, maybe.
Your odds aren't very good.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we're going to talk today about one of the taboo subjects, politics.
Oh, not sex. Politics.
I like talking about that too, but as you know, I love talking about politics.
Yes, you do.
We get into it around this house. We're quite passionate people, and we are passionate about our politics. Luckily, we agree for the most part.
For the most part.
On the all things political. What would it be like, honey, if we didn't?
Well, it would be interesting. There are some very public relationships.
Yes, and I'm going to talk about that.
That are quite divergent in their opinions.
Yes, well, we have a wife saver who is in the camp of one side, and her husband's in the camp on the other side.
Kind of exciting, I think.
You think that would be exciting?
It could be.
Okay, you know what? That is a really interesting statement that you just made.
Yeah.
Because I think it is more exciting to guys than to women, generally speaking.
Okay.
Okay, so we really love, and generally speaking, women really love this sense of unity, belonging, inclusion, right? That's what we're always striving for
go to lunch together
in our relationships, right? Where I think, now you tell me if I'm wrong, this isn't, I hadn't even anticipated talking about this, but I think it's really interesting what you just said, because I do teach actually in one of our Wife Savers lessons about how there are some men who really relish a good debate.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And you just said, I think it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I've done a lot of moderation of panels for lots of different events around the globe, and a guy that I actually used to work with, we were talking about, well, how do you do that? You have 5 or 6 people, and you're managing their conversation, and you're asking questions and everything. He says, "Oh, I just like to get them arguing." And that's his whole approach as a moderator.
He gets off on it.
Yeah. He likes to see the
It sounds
fight,
like some people we know. There's a lot of people out there right now, I think, who really are almost enjoying the
instigation of
the confrontation, the back and forth of ideas.
And in business, I think that's true. I just realized I thought of another CEO that I worked for, who his board of directors, the not the board of directors, but the mucky mucks that run the thing,
The big kahunas.
The big kahunas, he loved it when they got arguing.
Wow.
Because he felt like, oh, something's going on here. There's activity.
Okay.
There's thought. There's
and
discussion.
Creativity or problem solving come out of it.
Sure.
I can see that. And it's not comfortable to me. I can hold my own, I think, in a good debate on some subjects. But I think women in general is not what that's not what they're thinking of as being the best kind of conversation they could have with their man.
Yeah, sure.
But I think that's interesting that it could be, in some cases, your guy just loves to be challenged intellectually back and forth. I don't know. Well, it's possible. Okay. Well, you said you thought it sounded exciting, that maybe it would be fun if we were in an opposite camp sometimes, but I don't think I'd enjoy that. I think it's very exciting when we get all worked up together.
I agree with that.
Something.
I agree that it's been, we talk about this so much.
Yes.
That it's great to be on the same plane.
Right. So. I'm relieved. But let's help this wife saver. All right. She says, Ramona, throw me a wife saver. My husband and I have different political views, and he is criticizing and belittling mine. How should I handle this? You know what? There's two problems here. The first is what she says. They have different political views, and she's not sure how to manage that. But he's criticizing and belittling her.
Yeah, and there's too much of that in politics, generally speaking.
Yeah, but in your own house,
you don't want to bring it in.
Loved one?
Yeah, do that on Facebook.
Do that on Facebook. Take it to Facebook, honey.
That's what we should tell her. Thanks for listening, everybody. Put it on Facebook. And we're done.
Well, you know what? Talking about him criticizing or belittling her point of view could be that he's just doing the masculine kind of debate.
True.
But just in case it is true criticism, I really want her to listen to our episode 12. Do you remember that one? His criticism hurts. What to do when your husband is unkind.
Right. How to respond to that.
That may be listened to more than any other episode we've ever done.
That's too bad.
That is too bad. What does that tell you?
That's a badge you don't want to carry around.
Means I need to write a book for men. That's what I mean. So first of all, I want her to listen to that. I'm not going to address that aspect in this podcast, since we've done it before. What I really want to talk about is the political differences. And obviously this is with her and her spouse. But I want to tell you that the things we're going to talk about could very well apply to any relationship. So we've all got friends, we've got in-laws or neighbors or whatever that we may be feeling that the relationship is really strained right now in today's political climate.
It's very political. I know that my father was feeling one way, and his brother, my uncle,
there you go,
was polar opposite.
Well, you and your brother.
And no, not like this.
Not like that. Okay.
No. But they were just like, how can you possibly think that way all the time? Right. But today's climate is just so incredibly divisive on almost every subject that comes up that government may be involved in.
Everything's turned political.
Yeah
every issue's become a political issue. That's scary. Yeah. And I hate that it's actually infiltrating marriages. So that's why we're going to address it today, straight up. But did you know that 1/3 of all married couples in the United States consist of individuals with conflicting party affiliations?
Well, that's what all the surveys say, right? And
1/3? That's a lot. How do they do it? Well, we're going to figure it out. You know, my parents always sat down to talk through who they were going to vote for. And their rule was they had to agree. That was my parents.
They could not cancel each other out.
They wouldn't cancel each other out, is how they told me I was a kid. We're never going to cancel each other out. So they battle it out over the dining room table, and then they go to the voting booth, and who knows what they really did and said. But oh, golly. Anyway, I think, as you pointed out, that right now, this particular year is got to be extra difficult for hard-on relationships, especially those with these kind of opposing ideologies. So, Wakefield Research released a report 5 months after our Donald Trump was made president. And what they were looking at, what they researched was, get this, the Trump effect.
The Trump effect. Well, he'll be happy to know that.
On relationships. The Trump effect. And what they found, this research firm, is that 1 in 10, these are romantic marital relations, 1 in 10 had...
No, wait a minute. The romantic marital, you're putting those two together. I say there could be unromantic marital or romantic non-marital.
They were marriage.
Okay.
Marriage. Let's just say that. We hope they were romantic. If they
Yes.
weren't, they need to listen to podcast episode number. So anyway, 1 in 10 couples had ended relationships over political differences after 5 months after the election.
Whoa. Jeez.
That's called the Trump effect. Okay, so and nearly a quarter of Americans said they knew someone whose relationship had been negatively affected because of that election. So
Wow.
everybody knew somebody.
Right.
So yeah, the numbers are a lot higher probably than
Interesting.
even Wakefield research. All right. Gary Brown is a PhD who was interviewed by Women's Health magazine, and I want to take some of his ideas and discuss them today. Since I'm not really a super professional in this field, since I have a husband who actually agrees with me, so I'm going to rely on Dr. Brown here. He said, even people who deeply love each other are falling victim to the politics of personal destruction. What do you think that means?
The politics of personal destruction.
Yes, where it's not enough just to disagree with someone, but you have to destroy them and everything they stand for in the process.
Well, there's this term that's been around for quite a while of identity politics, where if you align yourself with a certain party or a candidate, then that's everything is defined about you by that.
Right.
And that's, I think, I've always, felt that that's not a positive thing at all. But here,
certainly not at home.
yeah, now you've got this very specific aspect of the destruction, I think. Is
politics
the word, right?
of personal destruction. Well, in marriage counseling, you would call that the zero-sum game, where
nobody wins.
Nobody wins.
Right.
And everyone's out to destroy, basically.
Interesting.
Ew.
Well, we don't think we want to be married to a president anyway. So some are. Some might like to be.
That would be really hard. That would be. I've always felt bad for those first ladies. Okay. So Dr. Brown talks about how to avoid feeling enraged by extreme differences of opinion and how to manage the increased anxiety levels that come on. So here's some of his strategies, all right, for handling these kind of practical and emotional challenges that are going to be part of these differences. No discussion is one option.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
Here's our first strategy.
No, hey, no, don't. Sorry. Not going to do it.
Seriously, you can establish a politics-free zone in your home.
A politics-free zone. So what do you go get some masking tape? Tape out a little box in your living room.
He starts talking and she goes, hold on. And she runs and stands
in the box. It's the equivalent of sticking your fingers in the air.
Listening.
La, 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 la. Yeah. Or the when you're 2 years old, you put your hands over your eyes and you go, you can't see me.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, seriously, though, the idea is that both of you, would appreciate a little opportunity for a little break in that kind of thing. You can relax at home, basically, and not have to be defending your opinions about public policy, right? So that could actually be a space in your home. Doesn't have to be a taped off center of the living room.
Depends on the home, people don't have.
No, come on now, really.
Tons of room.
We don't talk politics in the bedroom. See, that could be one of your rules. That you could run to the bedroom and sleep.
That's right. That's so inviting place for two couples to be.
Maybe we don't talk politics in the kitchen, whatever.
Bathroom.
But
no
they're
bathroom
not in
politics. That's my rule right there.
Politics. It could also be not just a physical space, but a time of day.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
we don't talk politics after 8:00 because we get too worked up and we got to go to sleep.
Don't talk politics after you watch your news program. Whichever news program you like to watch.
There you go. Maybe, but late evening is kind of a dangerous time. So it doesn't matter. I'm not telling you the specific time or place,
Sure.
but it's something you could talk about. Like there's got to be some place and some time where we get a little piece. So that's one strategy.
As opposed to a piece of it. You get some peace as opposed to some piece of it.
You're reminding me of a quote by Winston Churchill. A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject.
There you go. That's right.
So those little spaces of time or place, or get everyone off being a fanatic.
There you go. I like it.
All right. Now, the rest of these strategies have to do with, yes, we're going to go ahead and have our discussion. Our political differences are going to be aired out. Now, in that case, we want to avoid a heated discussion, do we not? All right. So here's some guidelines that will minimize the friction and the potential damage, if you will. Number 1. Ready?
I'm ready.
Stick to the facts.
It's for those of you who can remember, it's the dragnet statement.
Yeah, if they can
Just the
remember.
facts, ma'am. Yeah,
Just
from
the
the
facts,
50s and 60s. That's dating ourselves.
Well,
big time.
this goes, stick to the facts rather than I heard or she said, and any kind of rumor, the kind of conspiracy
so
stuff, and
hard
be
to do.
specific.
Yeah.
I know it's
so hard to do
do
with what's out there. So that has to do with
It's easier said than done.
what you consume and how you then
Yeah.
deliver what you
I
consume.
mean, when you think about all the different news sources now that say they're reporting facts, and then other news sources just
it's totally
waving
opposite.
everything off
Yeah.
as fake news, So in this case, instead of focusing in on party affiliation, which is just really vague and overgeneralized, wouldn't you say? It's like those boo-boos, they
We should have
blankety
a
blanks.
political, we should have a political party called the Boo Boos. I think that would be
Let's launch a third
the
party.
Yogi Bears and the Boo Boos. That would be good.
I'm sorry, it just came out that way. You know what I'm saying? I was trying not to use.
No, I do, but traditionally parties have had, and they do have, platforms.
Yes.
And this is what we stand for, and this is what we believe in.
Yeah, I know, but when you group everybody into one fell
Identity
swoop,
politics.
like that half of humanity,
Right.
if you're talking in those big sweeping, what's the word?
Yeah.
Overgeneralizations, then
Hyperbole.
you're not. There you go. You're not really going to get anywhere in a productive, peaceful conversation. So that's why we're saying get specific.
Yeah.
Talk about specific issues that you agree or disagree with rather than affiliations.
And that's especially true in a marriage relationship. If your partner has a different mindset and you clump he or her
then you're
into that grouping,
right.
then you destroy I've always feel that this destroys the humanity of people. And that's the last thing you want to do in a marriage.
People become one-dimensional instead of three-dimensional, right? Those liberals are all this way, or those conservatives are all this way.
Right.
And like, hello, I'm a liberal.
Yeah,
I'm your wife.
or
I'm
whatever.
a conservative. I'm your husband. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So that was our first one. Stick to the facts. Be specific. Number 2, this is probably a little obvious. Avoid ridiculing your partner.
How the heck could you possibly think that way?
I mean, that's standard advice for any couple. But you really have to pay extra attention to this and avoid at all costs the temptation to call your partner's thinking
a name.
Ridiculous.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No, what you're saying is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
That kind of feeling is wrong. If you listen, what would happen you love sports.
Mhm.
And what would happen if you attacked one of your friends' sports teams?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Right. Are they ever going to agree with you? Are they ever going to say, you're attacking their sports team?
Yeah.
Those blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
can, blah, blah, blah. Are they ever going to say, hey, I hadn't thought of it that way. Maybe you're right.
Well,
No.
no, I totally hear what you're saying. You know, when we talked at the beginning of the podcast about, you know, guys and gals, maybe general different approach to it and how guys tend to get, like people argue, the sports analogy, I'm going to say doesn't work
It
because
doesn't?
not only in the sense that that's, people love to do that. They love to get into those
okay.
types of things. You know, those bums, dub bums, you know.
I
and
know,
all
but
this
you're
stuff.
never going to convert someone to your team.
No, you're not. But I think that, you know, what you're saying, especially in a marriage, is so right. When you clump them together and you take your partner and throw them over there, basically, into that grouping, and you're not specific about things,
Right.
then you can't have developed that relationship.
And doing that is really, what's the intent? It's to expose someone for being ridiculous or to destroy their opinion rather than change them.
Right.
We're going to break now for just a minute so I can invite you to my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. In my work with women in over 70 countries, I found that most of us, when it comes to our husbands and sons, think like Carol in Kenya,
I was expecting him to think like me, behave like me.
or Dana in Idaho,
Shouldn't we just be the same and shouldn't we just agree?
or Anne in Oregon.
I grew up in a culture where there was a lot of eye rolling and sighing about guys.
And that's too bad, because when we act or react based on false expectations, we end up feeling like Catherine or Farinaz.
I didn't feel I could relate to him because I didn't understand him.
Thought maybe he had to do something with me, and I was taking it personally.
Or getting riled up like Carol.
Made me mad. It's crazy. It was frustrating, you know?
And acting like Anne,
I used to think he should know what I wanted without me having to ask.
which just erodes our relationships and blows up our dreams. So that's why I created Understanding Your Husband and Sons, a super fun, eye-popping deep dive into his brain, body, and emotional makeup. Women have been coming from all over the world and coming away from our time together with an exhilarating sense of hope and power, because now women like Amber, Ann, Dana, and Allison understand
how to communicate my needs, you know, how to be clear about it, how not to be run around, how not to manipulate.
The way I communicate with him isn't any more aggressive or threatening to him.
I can see why he's reacting or why he's responding that way.
That's helped to avoid a lot of the hurt feelings that I used to have.
So if, like Jeannie, you're thinking,
okay, I need to reboot how I think about marriage and men and how they're loved,
please join me at this free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. I'll teach you things you have never heard before and that you won't hear anywhere else. Science and strategies that will knock your socks off and make all the difference in your relationships.
And it just changes everything about how I see him.
There's this huge potential that I was not really tapping into because I didn't fully understand it.
I think the biggest piece is this understanding and appreciation.
We're both so much happier now.
And in how you see yourself.
My confidence as a woman has skyrocketed.
We've made it so easy. Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass and choose a day and time. I'll meet you there and even answer your questions live. Because like Carol in Kenya or Cindy in Argentina, you'll want to be able to say,
oh, we're wired differently. And that's the beauty of life.
And it set me free. It allowed me to say, okay, I understand now. And I loved him more than ever.
wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Oh, I recommend it to everyone I meet.
Number 3. So far we have stick to the facts, avoid ridicule. Number 3, allow the other person to have their convictions, regardless of whether or not you agree with them or not. You know, basically you're agreeing to disagree.
Well, and it really goes with number 2, with the sense of just acknowledging that people feel that way. And I think, you know, what part of our conversation at this time about politics is that, you know, there are lots of different options and approaches to solving the world's problems,
yes,
right? And just because they're a certain party affiliation doesn't mean that all those ideas can be thrown either for good or for bad.
Okay.
It has to be, to say, like you say, focused on specific things and not
because
just
agreeing on everything is unrealistic.
No, it's exactly. And we don't. We don't do that.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't. We don't. But yeah, to acknowledge, I mean, that's the first step of relationships, acknowledging how somebody feels or that their feelings are their realities.
Right. Everybody needs to be heard. Everybody needs to be understood. Everyone needs to be valued. And especially in your marriage, you never want to make your spouse feel that they are of no value to you or questionable value to you. You know, they are highly, highly valued. So what I teach in WifeSavers is that it's more important to be in the right relationship than to be right.
Yeah.
The right relationship takes priority over being right.
And in politics, you know, a lot of people feel like they have to be right all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, we're back to the politics of destruction or whatever it was
called. If one
called.
aspect of what I believe in or what I'm trying to see in effect is wrong, then, you know, how do you live in that world? People struggle with that.
Okay. You know, I'm thinking we have a couple of episodes of prior podcasts that would be really helpful here. I'm going to put a plug in for him. Number 41 is turning negative communication to the positive. One of our super popular ones. And the other one is episode 16, seeing eye to eye what to do when you don't. Seeing eye to eye. So look at those. That's number 41 and number 16. All right. But here's number 4 in our list. So we have stick to the facts, avoid ridicule, allow the other person to agree to disagree. All right. That's the easier way to say it. Number 4, listen for the intention behind the other person's proposed solutions to problems.
Well, I think that goes with, there are lots of different ways to solve problems, right?
Right.
And what are they trying to really get across?
What have you and I always said after a long, deep, back and forth, fun kind of, we like to get really philosophical.
What are you talking? Philosophical. Oh, I wondered where you were going here.
Us or our children now, our grown children, we always called it what? Solving the world's problems.
That's
We'll say, what are we doing? We're solving the world's problems. Or we'll say, that was fun solving the world's problems. And our whole family uses that phrase. But that really is true, what you just said, that you may have different ideas about how to solve the world's problems, but that doesn't mean that you can totally eradicate, the other person's viewpoint. That's just because here's where it really comes. You know what? I learned or saw a really good example of this in a TED Talk called How Our Friendship Survives Our Opposing Politics.
Oh, well, there it is.
And it was 2 women. One is Caitlin and one was Lauren. You need to look it up. They have last names that I have no idea how to pronounce. Quattromani, I think, is one, and Lauren is Aldridge. Yeah, it's not Dredge.
Aldridge or something, yeah. Quattromani.
But you can look it up by the title.
Go by Kaylin and Lauren.
There you go. How Our Friendship Survives Our Opposing Politics. And that's what they had to learn to do, because they're totally on opposite sides of the fence. They were really good friends and becoming really good friends when they discovered.
But they were able to move through that. And
at first it was alarming to them, but they found this was one of their strategies, is really listening for the intention, kind of giving the other person the benefit of the doubt.
Yep.
Like they're coming from a good heart.
Yeah.
You know, they're well-intentioned.
We're trying to accomplish the same goal, but maybe going different approaches to it.
And so when one was alarmed at the choice that her friend had made to take her son to the Women's March, she was like, wow, what are you doing taking your son? She calmed down and she asked her, why did you do that? Did you force him to go, you know? And the other friend was able to say, no, this is how it happened. And we'd been talking about it. He really wanted to go. And I thought it would be important for him to learn how to, be a part of history. And anyway, when she learned her friend's intent as a mother, totally negated all her anger. And
good.
She was all riled up. So that's it. Get to know where they're really coming from, the other person. Number 5 then is learn to let it go when you become overly distressed. Okay, that's the moment that you run to the taped off square in the living room. Just if you're getting too worked up, we call it in WifeSavers drop and cover. Or choose to soothe. Those are 2 different tactics. I won't go into them. You need to become a wife saver. You need to join the WifeSavers course and community so that you can learn so much about how to manage conflict. But those are 2 tactics we use. And one specific way is to drop back. That's what we call drop and cover. We drop back from the arguments, give ourselves a little space to breathe, to think things through, to think about the intent. And, before you continue getting so riled up that nothing productive is coming out of the conversation. You've lost the capacity for creative thought.
That's something that you've always naturally done.
Yeah.
Where things would get heated and you would just like, we're not, stop. And I have to say, and I think this is important, is that for me, early on in our relationship, that drove me absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I had something to say, by golly, and you're stopping, and I'm not finished or whatever, right? And it was really hard. It was really hard and frustrating. But what I've learned is that, when conversation gets to that level, where
we call it a 0.9 on the Richter scale.
Where turn it up to 11, as they like to say. Nothing good's going to come out of that. And, so it's hard to do is what I want to say. And in the moment when you're going back and forth about whatever the topic is, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily politics. That when it gets heated and you're feeling like an individual, whether you're a guy or a gal or whatever, I've got something to say. I haven't been able to say it. You haven't heard me. I'm going to get this out. And now or never, that does reach that point where the best thing is, all right, stop.
Take a break. This is all scientifically proven.
And well, I'm just saying this is what I've learned in 40 plus years of.
Thank you for that.
Of arguing.
So what you're saying
discussion.
Is you basically learned that I was right.
I wondered how long it would take you to go there. No, what I'm trying to say is that you've always known this.
Yes.
Inherently.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you've been able to put some words around it and support it with, like you say, your research.
That's all I'm doing.
And everything.
Yep.
But from my perspective, from the guy's perspective, it was hard to learn that more, took longer.
Well,
for me.
Bravo for you that you kept working at it until you understood it and the benefits. So, yeah, absolutely. I teach a 4-hour master's class in conflict prevention and management and resolution. So I hate just breezing over this like this, but it's a basic tactic that we all know. It's important, taking a break and backing off when things get too heated. All right, so learn to let it go. And then number 6. And let it go temporarily. You can always come back to it.
Well,
this
and
isn't
you
about
need to.
stuffing it.
Yeah. You don't want to let it
Right.
sit
You don't
there
want to
and
do
simmer.
that. Right. But you say, let's come back when we've calmed down, and it makes a huge difference. And again, that's all science. It's just not Ramona's.
Ramona's tip. Ramona's top 10 tips.
The number 6 is keep your perspective on. Keep a perspective on the differences. All right. You as a couple made the commitment to be a couple for many reasons. And if the only thing you strongly disagree about is politics,
yeah, you're doing pretty good.
You're doing great.
That's right.
That's right. Keep that perspective going.
Okay, I think that's a really good point, because the one topic, and in this case, certainly in today's world where we're at, can overshadow everything.
Yes.
And as we said, it
It all
defines.
feels so important.
Right. And it's defines people, right? Or we define people in our
Bias.
thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, bias, exactly right. But so keeping that perspective that it's one component of a much broader situation in family and relationship.
I'm going to give you a real life example. This is the best. James Carville and Mary Madeline.
James Carville is way left.
Yeah. They're married, James and Mary, and they just kind of burst onto the national scene in 1992. Do you remember why? They were the respective brains behind the rival presidential campaigns that year. So James was in his corner.
Yeah.
He was the brains
Clinton.
behind Clinton.
Yeah, he was
Right.
with Clinton, right.
Bill Clinton, who's running for president. And Mary was the brains behind the George H.W. Bush campaign. He was running for a second term. And so how more opposite could you be? And
Sure.
publicly so, right? They were
Yeah,
celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so they've been married now. That's when they started to be attracted to each other. And they've been married for a long time, ever since. And they were interviewed, and the interviewer said, "What is it about your bond that makes you so confident given your political differences?" Because they both still feel just as passionately as they ever did.
Mm-hmm.
But they have this great, long-standing marriage. You want to know what they said?
Sure.
James said, "I tell people I'm not changing political parties or my sexual orientation. I'm pretty much the way I am." If I had to say one thing, when you become famous for something, people think that's all you are.
There you go. That's it.
Right. Here's
That's
the
what we're talking
one-dimensional
about.
versus
Yeah.
the three-dimensional.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at athletes and sees them just as athletes, just because they can hit a ball or throw it. But in reality, they're complex people.
Yep.
People look at me and Mary and they say, "Wow, we saw you on Meet the Press." And they think those two people on TV are all about politics and politics only. But there's so much more about our life than that. We have feelings and relationships and family and kids and friends. We have things we're interested in and places we want to go. Politics are what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is defined by many things. Look at the troubles that marriages can have. You can have financial issues. You can have health issues. We have in-law issues. You can have religious differences. We've never had to deal with some of those, he says. Political differences are just one thing. If you look at my cell phone today, you'll see that I've probably had 20 political conversations. But when I see Mary tomorrow in Virginia, I won't be very excited to talk about politics. I'll sit in my chair and we'll talk about what the kids are up to.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Our life is a lot more complicated than the politics part of it. It's the other stuff that binds us. So this is how Mary answered the interviewer's question. That was James. Mary says,
and if you've ever heard James Carville, he's from Louisiana.
Yeah, he's twangy.
He's
city.
a Southern boy.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
very
she
distinctive
says,
voice. Yeah.
And she's not. She said, "What is it about our bond? Stubbornness, weirdness, faith, love? He makes me laugh. He makes a good cheese omelet." He said, "I love his family. He's an incredible dad." If you can find someone who has the definitive answer to what makes a marriage work, let me know. She says, "All I know is that he's my total package."
Yeah.
I love that word, total package. So I want to kind of wrap this up with the idea that there really is hope for people in a politically mixed marriage. The Journal of Social and Personal Relationships says that those kind of marriages are more likely to survive when couples keep up with everyday niceties, compliments, thank you, physical affection, habits that scientists call relationship maintenance. So this is Tamara Afifi, a professor at the University of California, Santa Barbara, who co-authored that report. And she said, couples who actively maintain their relationship are better able to weather the storm of the election because it builds up positive emotions that protect the relationship during difficult times. And that's a Gottman thing, right? John Gottman. Friendship fuels the flames of romance because it offers the best protection against feeling adversarial towards your spouse. So friendship, if you have, your marriage can rebound when you rebond, is how I like to say it, with your spouse as a friend. So all the other things that we talk about in WifeSavers, and many of which we touch on in our podcast episodes, like turning towards and spending quality time together. Look up all of those podcast episodes. Look for ways to build up your friendship, because that is going to be your best protector against all the stresses, whether you're politically different,
active or
not. This is whatever stress, and we're all in so much stress now with the world crisis and the climate and the political climate and the social climate and the health climate and climate change.
This is what we're really talking about, and what you're really pulling it all together is this is how a relationship works. You're going to have these discords and disagreements, and things aren't going to be right. It happens all day long for people, right? It's just little things that can turn into big things. But when we start to, like we said, define ourselves by who we are or what we think we want to have happen in the world or whatever, that these techniques or actions have to be applied in an even more serious and focused way. Intentional, good, to keep the relationship going. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about friendship, last thought sort of here, it occurs to me is we're talking about being a team, really.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
And you want to be on your partner's team. So one of the WifeSavers laws of attraction is allegiance. And some women prickle at the idea of allegiance. But listen, that's what you did when you married. You agreed to join forces. Did you not? Right? So all allegiance is that you have all my heart, both in public and private. So to me, being friends, being on the same team is that we might not always agree about everything. Certainly, politics is one of those things people deal with. But I'm still on your side.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm on your side, and I'm never going to do anything that makes you feel insignificant or unvalued or alone. I'm going to stand up for you when I feel in a public way, even if I need to, when I see you feeling uncomfortable or being treated unfairly, right? Allegiance.
Yeah.
You have my heart. We're on the same team here, bud.
And you talk about you can't let anything interfere with that to have a successful family and relationship.
Thank you.
And there's all sorts of things that can. Money, relationships, kids, all sorts of things. But why let something like politics become a dagger or a sword that divides?
Well, Mary Madeline, who we were just learning about, she said, I try not to classify political issues as marriage issues.
There you go. That's right.
There you go, right? And just to leave us on a little fun note, I'm going to quote a couple of politicians. Dwight Eisenhower being one of them. He was a president of the United States. And he said this profound thing: things are more like they are now than they ever were before.
Well, I hope so. Unless we're in the Wayback Machine and we've gone someplace else.
That marriage is marriage, isn't it? You know, throughout all the generations, there's always something that could threaten your marriage and come between you. And I love what you said. Don't let politics
of all the
be
things.
it. Yeah. Because as the profound politician Dan Quayle.
Dan Quayle. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Dan Quayle, just look that one up. Mr. Gaff.
He said, the future will be better tomorrow.
Well, there it is. Tomorrow.
So, honey, do you love our subscribers as much as I do?
I am so in love with our subscribers.
And do you think we earned 5 stars today?
I'd say we're pushing 6.
Well, I hope they do something about it. And I hope they join my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. It works, right? I understand you.
More and more.
Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Home is with you wherever that may